Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Union. Thank you very much for giving up your Valentine's Day to be with us. We very much appreciate it. So tonight, instead of an emergency debate, we're going to be holding the Hustings for by-election for the position of Treasurer next term. So what will happen is each candidate will have 3 minutes to speak, and then we will open it up to the floor for a maximum of 2 questions. Now, our first candidate is James Epthorpe from St John's. He cannot be here with us tonight, but we encourage you to look at his manifesto along with everyone else's, which will be online tomorrow. So moving on to our second candidate, Michael Dunn Gokshan from Trinity.
Thank you very much. Now, I've always found these elections somewhat self-indulgent, in that they're a time when we as a society are very inward-looking rather than engaging with ideas from the outside world, which is presumably why many of us are here. So I'll try and keep this mercifully short. I think there are 3 key components to the role of Treasurer. The first is overseeing the termly finances and fundraising. The second is securing Treasurer's treats, i.e. discounts at local businesses for members. And the third is assisting with the general planning and organisation of the term. So I'm going to take you through each of those roles and explain why I'm qualified and what it is I intend to do. So to begin then, with the running the books for the term and fundraising. I'm qualified to do this. At school, I ran a variety of societies, each with a substantial budget. Nothing on this scale, of course, but then again, nothing is on this scale. And I've been involved in a wide array of activities here at the Union, from these public debates all the way down to the competitive debating, so I have good knowledge of all the different activities on offer and the costs involved. In terms of what I want to do here, last year the Union ran a £127,000 deficit. That is far less than the previous year, but it's still quite a lot. And I want to work on closing that deficit through 3 key ways. First, by getting sponsorship from firms that would be interested in recruiting some of us, via, for example, advertisements in the term cards or the sponsoring of the debates. Second, through using the buildings, letting them out for various events, marriages, conferences, concerts, etc. And third, through looking at the pricing of the membership fees and seeing how we can adjust that to make it more intelligent and, yes, more accessible. I think that's very important. So now on to the second area, which is Treasurer's treats. Anastasia, the current Treasurer, has created a Treasurer's Committee, and I would like to work with that committee to find out what sort of discounts you would like, and then to get them. I think I have experience for this because I've got a lot of experience with competitive debating and persuasive speech, and hopefully I'll be able to put that to some use in the real world. And I think it's very important also that we publicise Treasurer's treats a little bit better, both because it brings better value to members in that if they know what discounts they can get, they can actually get them, but also because it brings better value to local businesses, and they actually get more value out of them and hence more incentivized to actually offer discounts to you. So we're going to try and raise awareness of Treasurer's treats as well. Finally, the third area, helping with the general running of the term. I'm already on the supplementary committee, so I'm already working on planning debates for next term and inviting speakers, and I'd like to do much, much more of that to ensure that Easter 2013 is the best term at the Union yet. Thank you very much, and good evening. Any questions? No questions? No rest for the wicked.
My name. Could you spell? Okay, now it works. Is it? Yes? Okay, sorry. My name is Armin Kröpp. I'm from Selwyn College. What exactly did you mean by adjusting fares and the ticket prices for membership?
So I think this is a very interesting area, and I don't have any. I have some ideas, but no fixed plans yet, as I haven't seen the full figures yet. But certainly, I think it is curious that we have a front-loaded pricing scheme, a back-loaded pricing scheme, in that prices are very low if you join early, but very high if you join later. It seems to me that it is economically efficient rather to price things very highly at the beginning, because that way the keenest people buy early and pay the higher amounts, and then to lower the prices as you go along as more marginal people consider their decision. At the moment, people who were wavering at joining at first then get hit by a higher price rise and are consequently disincentivized from joining. So I would look at a front-loaded pricing scheme as opposed to a back-loaded one. For example, when they price iPads, they put them very, very high to begin with, because there are some people who will buy an iPad no matter what, and then lower the prices so that those who are wavering gradually are given a better deal. So I would look at perhaps changing the pricing structure in that way. I think that would lead to an increased membership and hence to increased revenue. Any further questions?
It's not so much
As in, the point of the low price is to attract people rather than, to make money.
Sure, absolutely, and I think there's a balance to be made here. Sorry.
Yes, and let me just remind you that the union has 3 times a year a lower month. It's basically, you can wait 2 months and have low prices again.
Sure. So I think there's a balance to be struck here between setting a low price rate at the beginning to generate interest during Freshers Week, and then raising the prices a little bit and then lowering them again. But I think the point still stands, namely that we have very, very high prices later on in the year, and that's very, very bad because those who didn't make their decision very, very quickly are now getting additional disincentives to join. And fundamentally, look, when someone joins the membership, when someone joins the union, the costs from the union's perspective don't rise. So we have an incentive to encourage as many people to join as possible in order to increase our revenues. So I think thinking about a pricing structure that doesn't disincentivize those who waver at the beginning is certainly something we should consider.
Fellow union members, thank you for taking the time tonight to hear from all those candidates. I've only had a short amount of time to be able to speak to the others, but I assure you tonight that you have a great selection between 5 great candidates, so whoever you choose will do a great job of being the treasurer of your union. So really it's down to me to say why I'd be different. Like, I could go on about how I do the treasurer role, but it's going to bore you. Fundamentally, the treasurer is there to do a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that you don't see. And the stuff that you're actually interested in is how it affects you and how it changes your union. Because after all, as an officer of the union, I'd be there to represent you, not to represent me. Well, firstly, I guess I probably should speak about my experience because after all, it's a treasurer role I'm going for. I've been treasurer of Cambridge University Jewish Society for a year now, and that's managing a budget of approximately £30,000 a year. And although the union's official budget is about somewhere between £900,000 and £1 million a year, the actual budget managed by the committee on a day-to-day basis through the entire year is £30,000 because the union staff do the rest of it. So it's kind of a similar scale of operation that I'd be managing. I've got plenty of other experience. I'm on the Financial Resources Committee here at the moment, looking at more long-term stuff, so long-term relationships with outside partners, how we can improve the website, and that kind of thing. Sorry, that's probably quite boring. It's not very interesting to any of you. But I want to really set out the 2 ways in which I think I'd be different as a treasurer, and that's through dedication and inclusion. By dedication, I don't mean just about going hard at this job, because part of the problem of the union is that all the roles only last for 1 term. But if I became treasurer, in fact, even if I didn't become treasurer, I'd still be committed to this place, and I'll still be contributing. So as well as being a 1-term treasurer, I'll also be looking to continue on the work that I do in that term in forming long-term relationships with corporate sponsors and bringing in long-term income. For example, one idea I have to bring in long-term income is through advertising across campus, and this really serves 2 purposes. On one side, we'd get more publicity because we could advertise the union. On the other hand, you're thinking, wait, what's this got to do with treasurer? Well, we could raise money through this because we can get external sponsors to co-share our adverts. So you'd find out about the union across campus, and we'd get money in from these adverts. It'd also be able to be a great way to advertise treasurer's treats, which not enough people know about. And treasurer's treats are great discounts. For example, did you know at Wildwood you get a 25% discount just for showing your Cambridge Union card? So the other thing I said I'd talk about is inclusion. And this is something that's really crucial to the union. I mean, great work's been done over the past few years by the diversity officers. And so primarily how to promote inclusion is that my main funding priority would be disabled access. So I should probably wrap up now. So yeah, if anyone wants to ask me any questions about inclusion, that would be great. Thanks.
How do you plan to be inclusive?
Thank you very much. Okay, so one of the key ways to be inclusive is to make sure that everyone knows that anyone can get involved at the union. So it'll be through primarily through the promotion of Treasurer's Committee, because that's what I'd most directly be involved in, but also through promoting all areas of the union. So for example, that you can be an AV steward, which I've got lots of experience of. For example, that you could be a normal steward and get involved with whatever you really want to do. And so if we got more funding, we'd be able to have more adverts out there so that we could reach out to more members and let you know on a day-to-day basis how to get more involved.
I think you might have been going on to say about disabled access. What are your ideas there?
Okay, so in the long term, well, actually reasonably short term plan, so hopefully within the next year, there's plans to finalise the ramp for the building and also for the disabled toilet. It's just making sure that we have this funding is a priority and emphasising that's the key priority in terms of funding, because in some sense that's one of the most important things, just because this is our union, it's a union for all of us, and we shouldn't be excluding people.
Just a little bit about myself. I'm currently one of the diversity officers here. I'm originally from Dublin in Ireland, though my father is distantly Czech, so that explains my last name. I just finished my last degree in America last May. I studied history, and now I'm doing a 2-year law degree here. Now, before I get into the practicalities, I suppose, of being treasurer, I thought I just should say something about where I see, I suppose, the Cambridge Union's place in the world. And I suppose I'd like to talk about that in the context of sort of, the current controversy, I suppose, about inviting Marine Le Pen. And we have one of these controversies more or less every term. But I think in any debate about free speech and no platform, I think one of the key questions that we have to ask ourselves is, was the reason that there was no fascist takeover in Britain in the 1930s, was it because we had better no platform laws than Germany? Was it because we were better restricting certain types of speech? I, in fact, think it's more or less the opposite. Now, this is very relevant, I suppose, as well, because nowadays, I suppose the government doesn't really, if you like, it doesn't overtly restrict free speech. What it actually does is, it's more subtle, I suppose. I think that free speech is restricted. I suppose there are soft restrictions, for example. For example, sponsors will pull out, things like that. And so I think this is really one of the key issues for the Cambridge Union. And as treasurer, one of your key roles is fundraising. And so let's say, for example, you're fundraising, and a company says, we'd be delighted to give you money. But then suddenly, they withdraw that money because you've had a controversial speaker. That's one of the real balancing issues you have to do as treasurer. The final thing I suppose I would like to say, and we've talked about diversity, about disabled access in the context of diversity. And we just mentioned a disabled bathroom. This is one of the issues we've been trying to work on. It costs something like £8,000 to have a disabled bathroom here. And last year there was a Paralympian, and she was here, and effectively she was told if she wanted to use the bathroom, she had to go to a restaurant all the way down the street. And I suppose this is, totally, shameful and disgraceful. And one of the ways you address this is not necessarily by cutting funding from other areas, but you have to increase the amount of money which the Cambridge Union is getting. When I was at my last university, I was engaged in a fundraising campaign for the sailing team, and we were able, I suppose, to raise something like $50,000. And the way we did this was by specifically targeting people, specifically writing specific letters to specific people for a specific purpose. We didn't just write 100 generic letters hoping people would give money. And so I think it's sort of these types of issues that we have to focus on. And the final thing which I'll mention is just about membership fees. Now, something like 80% of the revenue which the Cambridge Union gets comes from membership fees. So unfortunately, if we increase access by reducing the cost of membership fees, well, then the Cambridge Union is going to have no money. And so we have to come up with sort of ways in which we can increase access while at the same time, not make the union go bankrupt. And one of the things which we're considering as diversity officers now is more or less doing some sort of deal with the various colleges, more or less allowing colleges to pay the bill, or at least so that students... Okay, well, thank you very much.
Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No.
This thing on? Yeah. Okay. you were saying about commercial sponsorship and the potential problems of pressure from that. Should we take that to indicate that you will be more reluctant to see the union much more financially reliant on commercial sponsors?
Well, look, you take money from wherever it comes, okay? And so, I mean, I'm serious. You just need to be, and the thing is, as long as you're not bound by it. So if a company comes and says, we'll give you £50,000, but do X, Y, and Z, well, no, we don't take it. However, if they just give us money, it's like, great, and we don't have to listen to them. Thank you.
Right, he's started a clock, so I better be fast. Hi everyone, I'm Jonathan Zemlich, and I am the next 3 minutes. I have to convince you why you should vote me, Union Treasurer, in Easter 2013. So let's start with a situation. We have a very old and very beautiful building, which is nonetheless due for some renovations pretty soon. Also, our bicentennial is only 2 years away, so we've got to get eager for that. So, last year, in 2010, we raised £78,345 in fundraising. Now, of that, £11,100 was from sponsorship. That is too low. We need to raise that. The year before, it was double that. Okay, that's a boring bit over. Okay, in order to do this, I have a number of external and internal drives to increase fundraising income while using careful budgeting to cut waste. Companies are always keen to find new markets, so there are many sponsorship opportunities out there. There are more sponsorship opportunities out there than there are fish in the Pacific Ocean. We just need a wide net to capture these people. Okay, and I think it's time to diversify. I would look at more specific types of sponsorship, especially when it involves replacing or buying new equipment. Why not approach a company like Samsung or Microsoft directly and ask them to give us new equipment if they don't want to give us money? I mean, look at that lovely new Coke fridge in the bar. Now, I know TV product placement is terrible on telly, but it brings us a halloover load of money in. Okay. I also want to diversify sponsorship. We should embrace the global market. As a university, we have massive and great talent in foreign language students. Let's use this. Let's write letters to companies in their own languages. Let's sell the Cambridge brand from New Zealand to New York. Let's sell the Cambridge brand and let's bring ourselves a lot more money so we can pass the discounts on to you that you require. Just turning the page. My biggest project, however, would be a micro project revolving around guests. I would ask guests to sign bottles of wine, which would auction off later. Imagine how much someone would pay for a bottle of wine signed by John. Come on. Also, it's obvious that one of the best things about this place is the big name speakers. They pack the chamber, and then you pack the bar afterwards, and we get your money. So, I'm going to work tirelessly to bring you the speakers you want, the ex-presidents, the ex-prime ministers, the Hollywood showbiz people. That is how we increase money flow. That is something which can be done in the short term relatively easily. Finally, I want to focus on making the union accessible. It's £175 to join at the moment, and that is prohibitively expensive, and it only seems to be going up. By seizing each and every opportunity for sponsorship, I can bring that down. Let's work with places like BBC Radio 4, who can give us coverage and we can get money off them. So thank you very much. I'm Jonathan Zemlich. Please vote for me on Saturday, and if I'm not your first candidate, make me a second or a third, please. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful night, ladies and gentlemen. Any questions? No? I'll keep this one.
Thank you. Hello. In terms of inclusiveness, do you intend to do anything about the fact that after the debates this term, the speakers who go into the room over there, the room is closed, there's a big bounce on the door. It seems to me not very inclusive in that people can't come and speak to you as they did last term. I think it would really attract new members, new people, get people coming, more people coming to these debates if this was accessible. Do you intend to do anything about that?
That's a very good point, and previously I understand it's varied from president to president. Obviously, there are some restrictions which do have to be placed to certain guests. However, that room should be generally accessible. Now, not everyone can go in, obviously, because frankly, we can't shove everyone in here in the dining room. However, I think, one, make it accessible for people who really want to speak to these people, and two, try and get speakers to the bar. Speakers like to talk to us. They say, why don't we go talk to them? But for some reason, they just stay in the room. So, yes, something needs to be done about that, because that is a fundamental principle that we as members should have access to talk to the speakers one-to-one. It's one of the best things about us, and they come to the bar and we do it, but obviously sometimes that room can be a bit prohibitive. Thank you very much. Hello.
Every candidate for treasurer says they're going to get more sponsorship, and most of them don't succeed. How are you going to succeed where all the others have failed?
Big question, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to tell you how. Now, I think I'm rather unique in being one of the only people to actually work in business, granted for my parents, actually. And frankly, I've developed a relationship with an online company in order to get car parts for cheaper from overseas. Now, that's only one thing, but the trick is you've got to sell it. You've got to sell it. I will bring potential sponsors like KPMG, Goldman Sachs, Deloitte, all people who have sponsored the union before, I believe. Let's invite them to dinner. Let's wine them, dine them, and then see if they want to invest in us. That's one of my primary reasons. The other is also just flooding it, writing to everyone. Big net, like I said. The trick is sell, sell, sell. Sell the Cambridge brand. Sell our talents, and that is how we can improve union membership, get us more money, and you better value.
Okay, a big thank you to all candidates for your speeches. Voting opens on Saturday from 10 till 6 with results in the bar afterwards. And now we are going to leave you to enjoy tonight's debate, which will begin shortly. Thank you very much and good evening.